Place always feels like home. Wherever you go, as this family, it just feels like home. So I am happy and I'm glad to be part and parcel of Windsor Park SDA Church. What does the church say? Amen. So today, without wasting much of your time, I would like us to dwell on the topic which reads enmity between men and Satan. Enmity between men and Satan. And the book, The Great Controversy, chapter 30, and I'm going to make use of page 485 from the first paragraph. And we are also going to use Genesis chapter 3, verse 15 as our theme verse. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. This is the verse that is going to lead us to our sermon. So I'm going to kindly ask Elder Sabao, may you please read for us Genesis 3, verse 15. It's a very common story. This verse is being alluded after one of the major turning events, allow me to say, in the history of humanity. This verse is being spoken after the fall of man. So it gives us the picture of Adam and Eve. They were in the Garden of Eden. Before the entry of sin, everything, it was just perfect. Everything, it was moving on perfectly. And there were no statements like, how are you doing? How are you managing? And someone would say, I'm just holding on. How are you doing? And someone would respond, I'm just soldiering on. Everything was nice and it was flowing on smoothly. Everything, it was perfect before this statement had been uttered. And the Bible makes it clear that even after the creation of Adam and followed by Eve, the Lord, he behold and he said everything was perfect. Everything was good in his very own eyes. Enjoyed this perfect environment just for a few moments before the entry of sin. We know the story, we can trace it back from heaven, where the Bible makes it clear that there was war in heaven, and the greatest rebellion or the instigator of the rebellion in heaven, it was the devil himself. And after there was war, his place could not be found in heaven. And the Bible makes it clear that rejoice in heaven, for the devil is no longer among you. But woe to you, the inhabitants of earth, for the enemy, the great deceiver, the devil himself, he is now dwelling among you, and he is so angry, for he knows that his time is short. So the spirit of prophecy makes it clear that this moment of bliss, it was only enjoyed for something like 40 days before the entry of sin. So they were there in the Garden of Eden, and before they were tricked or before they were tempted into sin, angels would always visit them. And a story, it was always emphasized upon. Remember to always be watchful, be sober, and be vigilant. There is Lucifer. He is now called Satan. He is now living among you. And on one or the other, he will seek to tempt you into becoming like him. So, an instruction it was given to Adam that wherever you go, you are supposed to have Eve by your side. And Eve, wherever you are, make sure that you are always with your husband. So the instruction, it was loud and clear. Apart from that, they were always enjoying the daily visits of the Creator himself. God would visit this couple and they would engage into a conversation, asking questions, and God answering all those questions. And the Garden of Eden, it was a school on its own. Because on daily basis, they were being elevated from one level of knowledge to another. They were being well versed with their surroundings. I would like to believe in my imagination that sometimes they would venture into asking about wildlife, asking about the mysteries of nature, asking about the mysteries behind those things that we cannot even explain up to date. Loyalty, it was their loyalty to God. So we are well versed with the story that one of these days, the devil himself, he could not entrust this mission of making sure that the rest of men or humanity, they have fallen. He could not entrust this mission with nobody but himself, because this was a very important mission for him. This was something of importance to him. He knew that once I have started with the father of nations, Adam himself, the whole entire rest of humanity, they are going to be under my captivity. So a story is told that Eve, she was deceived, and after that, Adam also gave in. But our main thrust of the story, after the fall of man, the first steps that were taken, they were not from the human point of view, but the first giant steps that were taken, they were coming from God himself. So God, he had to go down and to look for his own children. Whilst he was looking for them, the Bible makes it clear that they hid him and they hid somewhere because they could not contain his presence. So after this, there were some questions, and they had to venture into a fault-finding mission. Adam saying, no, the wife that you created to be by my side, she is the trouble causer. And Eve saying, no, the snake god. So people, they were casting the blame upon God for their own faults. They were casting the blame upon the Creator for what had fallen on them. And here, Genesis 3 verse 15, it is stressed that the divine sentence pronounced against Satan after the fall of man was also a prophecy, embracing all the ages to the close of time and foreshadowing the great conflict to engage all the races of men who should live upon the earth. So this was not just a statement that was applying during their own time, but it was a prophetic statement because it was explaining what was happening to the races or to the ages that were going to come even after them. So we know inside the Bible, when the Bible is talking about a woman, it is referring to the church. So God, at this particular moment, God declares, I'll put enmity. This is not naturally entertained. When man transgressed the divine law, his nature became evil, and he was in harmony, not at variance with Satan. Rather, their very own nature, it was in harmony with the devil. So it was at this particular moment that God, he had to create enmity between humanity and the devil himself. So glory be to God. Without the creation of this enmity, we were not going to make it. All hopes, they were going to be lost. So God is saying that man, he was now in harmony with the enemy. You can read Elders about Genesis chapter 6, verse 25, just for us to have the picture of what was going to happen to humanity if they were going to remain in this state, if God was not going to take some steps to make sure that there was enmity between humanity and the devil himself. Genesis 6 verse 25. What does it say? And God saw that the evil of men, it was so great, so corrupt to an extent that human beings were now, their imaginations were of evil continuously. And the next verse reads, verse 6, was supposed to be the end of all men. That we were supposed to be in harmony with the devil. We were supposed to be more like him. we were supposed to act, to talk, to think, to imagine just like himself. So it was after the fall of man that God, in his mercy, he had to create enmity between humanity and the devil himself. So let us make use of one practical example from the book of Romans. You can go to the book of Romans chapter 6, then you read verse 16. Romans chapter 6, verse 16. The background of the book of Romans, we know the author of the book, it was Paul. And Paul, when he's writing on chapter 6, verse number 16, he is not referring to anyone else, but he's referring to himself. He is talking about this great controversy between good and error. He is talking about some of the challenges that he is coming across as a human being. So on Romans chapter 6, verse 16, Paul is talking about something that is so sad. He is talking about something that is so miserable. And he is proving that on our own as human beings, we cannot conquer the devil. On our own as human beings, there is nothing that we can do to change our nature. Because by nature, the spirit of prophecy is making it clear that there exists naturally no enmity between sinful men and the originator of sin. Both become evil through apostate. The apostate is never at rest except he obtains sympathy and support by inducing others to follow his example. So here you can read about Romans 6 verse 16. To yield themselves under the great deceiver, the devil himself. They became servants of the devil. They became more like his subjects. They could just follow his instructions without any element of resistance. So in other words, by nature, they became more like him. By nature, they were now resembling him. By nature, whatever you would do or say, they would find themselves imitating him without any second thought. So when God is now saying, I will create enmity between man and the serpent, he is referring to this relationship between the devil and Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Not only them, even generations to come. Because by nature, we are sinful. If we are to do this practical example, if we are just to take our newborn babies and we'll make sure that we take them to a place that is an island, or we'll isolate them from any influence, without any gadgets, without any human beings influencing them to do anything, and we'll let them grow there while we are watching them from a distance. One thing for certain is we will begin to trace some traces of sin that were never even experienced during our era. Because by nature, humanity is evil. So we don't become evil because we are influenced with bad company. We don't become evil because we are being enticed to do so by others. But it is inside us, it is within our DNA. By nature, we are leaning towards sin. By nature, it is natural for us to do so. That is why it is never a surprise when the hosts of heaven, they are staring or they are watching the events that are happening here on planet Earth. They are never surprised with the flow of events. They are never surprised by seeing us sinning on top of sinning. But one thing that surprises them the most, one thing that surprises even the angels, is seeing human beings who are sinful by nature doing something that is righteous. Who are sinful by nature, having this craving for drawing nearer and nearer to Christ. And they'll begin to understand that this is no longer the works of their hands. This is no longer their efforts that have been put into place, but this is now the external force taking over. So whenever we do righteous, that is why we can never take credit to ourselves. Whenever we do something that is good, that is why we always give glory and honor unto the Lord. Because
our area of specialization is to be sinful. One thing that we do naturally, it is to sin. But whenever we will start to distance ourselves from sinning to do something that is right, not I, but Christ who lives in me. Whenever we begin to interact with others in a way that is so good, that is pleasing, that is filled with kindness, not I, but Christ who lives in us. Whenever there is peace and harmony in our homes, in our marriages, it's no longer something of our own making. One thing that we are very good at is destroying those marriages. One thing that we are very good at is saying hateful words to each other. Whenever there is an element of people telling each other those sweet words, just know that there is the Spirit of God that is existing somewhere. Because on our own, children of God, there is nothing that we can do that can be appreciated without God putting enmity between our very own nature, which is the nature of sinning. You know, that thing that we call conscience. My guilty conscience. It's not your guilty conscience. It is the Spirit of God that is working inside you and awakening those deadened senses and awakening your conscience from being evil and alerting you that can't you see that you're falling? Can't you see that what you are doing is not right? You may read Romans chapter 7, verse 24. This is now Paul. He is looking at his nature and he is seeing that something is wrong somewhere. He is seeing that the way I am is not pleasing. He is seeing that the way I am doing things is not the right way. But he is calling himself wretched. Why is he calling himself wretched? Knowing about evil is one thing, and distancing yourself from evil is another thing. Knowing the right thing is one thing, and doing the right thing is another thing. So Paul is looking at himself and he is seeing something amiss about himself. He is speaking that something is wrong with me, but he is unable, he is helpless to help himself. And he looks at himself and he said, "Oh, wretched man that I am." When we are looking at ourselves, we don't see how we can be saved. But when we look at the cross, we don't see how we can be lost. On our own, we are helpless. But with Christ, we are exceedingly abundantly more than conquerors. We can do this, we can overcome. We look at ourselves. This is the response that comes into our minds. Oh, wretched man that we are. What were the reasons? You can read Romans 7, verse 19. Difference between good and evil. But one thing that was now surprising Paul, he had the knowledge of what's good. But the practicality of the gospel, it could not be materialized inside him. So he is now saying, I am very much aware that killing is bad. But why is it that I continue killing after knowing that killing is bad? I am very much aware that stealing is bad. But why is it that I keep on doing that which is against my conscience, which is against my judgment, which is against my own point of view? So he is saying, oh, wretched man that I am. Looking at himself, seeing the great controversy that was taking place within, he had to call himself wretched. You can go on and read Romans 7, verse 25. I know that trying to wrestle against sin on my own, the results, they are fatal. I know that my situation on my own is helpless. That is why I'm calling myself wretched. But glory be to God for Jesus Christ. For that I cannot do on my own. Christ himself will manifest himself in me, and he will give me the power to will and to do. There's a statement that reads, his bindings are his enablings. Whenever God is calling us out of sin, he does not just call us out of sin without giving us enough power to get out of sin. That is why the Bible says his mercies, they are new each and every morning. Every day have got its own challenges that are unique, that are so peculiar. But glory be to God. For every challenge, there are new mercies that matches the challenges of that particular day. So tomorrow it might be containing something that might be so scary, that might be too much for you, something that you have never experienced before. But do not be discouraged. His mercies again, they are going to match those challenges, because God will make sure that today is a new day altogether. You are going to be tempted in different angles altogether. So let me renew my mercies towards you, such that you will sail through, such that you will have the power to stand, such that you have the power to overcome what's evil. That is why the Bible makes it clear that there is no temptation that will come and tempt us that we do not have the power to overcome. You know, remember the story when the disciples, they were with Christ inside that boat, and there were a lot of things that were going wrong. And at first they were relaxed, because the likes of Peter, they had the knowledge of sailing, they had the knowledge of fighting against different kinds of storms. But there was a point that Peter, he had to make sure that Christ is up from his sleep. And he said that, carest not that we perish. Do you not have care that we are perishing? Why are you at peace whilst us, we are under intense agony, intense pain, whilst we are going through the most of our lives? And he had to say, oh, you of little faith, for how long am I supposed to be with you, so that you might believe that with Jesus in the vessel, you can even smile at the storm? This is high time, the children of God. We do not need to tell the world how big our problems are, but rather we need to tell our problems how big our God is. It is the time whereby, like Caleb, we don't need to tell people about the giants that we have seen, but we need to tell people about the God that we serve. We have the ability of creating such giants. So those giants in my life, because he is the creator, because he is the father of everything. He is the almighty God. So sometimes when we go before the throne of God, we don't make it clear that, you know what, God, at this particular stage of my life, there is no enmity between me and this sin that I'm doing. We are supposed to be so clear with God. God, I am here as your child. And to be frank with you, there is this particular sin that I am always indulging in. And whenever I'm doing it, I'm not hating it. I am so much in love with it. But because it is against your word, may you please create enmity between me and this sinful trait, such that I might have the power to see the sinfulness of sin, such that I might have the power of overcoming it, such that I might look at it and I might be disgusted with those kind of acts. But many times we do our sinful acts, and when we come, when we are before the throne of God, we tend to lie even before Him. God, may you please forgive me for doing something that was so terrible. Is it appearing so terrible within your eyes, or it's something that you are loving to do? Tell God the truth. I am so much in love with this thing. May you please create enmity, just like what you did on Genesis 3 verse 15, such that I might hate sin. I might see the sinfulness of sin. So as we are embarking on this great controversy, without God creating enmity between us and sin, we are bound to perish. Without God creating the seed of discord between us and our dying sins, we are bound to perish. But glory be to God. On Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, there was a prophetic statement. It was not only applying to Adam and Eve and the serpent, it was also applying to us. During our own time, we can ask God to create enmity between us and those things that we enjoy doing, though they are contrary to God's word. And after the creation of this enmity, that is when in Hebrews chapter 11, who explore some of the stories that you even begin to wonder. When these human beings like us, sometimes, in each and every time, when I come across the book of Job, reading about the story of Job, sometimes you wonder, was Job a human being like us? We are facing today. But because God had created enmity between him and sin, Job was saying, I would rather die than to sin against the Lord. So may the Lord richly bless us. I have only one prayer request: for God to create enmity between us and those that we call darling sin. For God to create enmity such that we might have the power to will and to do. Willingness is not enough. You might be willing to be a good person. That on its own is not enough. You might be willing to do better next time. You might be willing to make people happy. But willingness without doing is nothing. We need the power from above, such that whatever that we wish to do, whatever that you command us to do, you also give us and equip us with enough power to do that, such that what we say we will do, and what we will do will be what's in our minds. So may the Lord richly bless us. I would like us to have this special moment of prayer. We are only praying for one thing: for God to create enmity between us and sin, because we are living in a sinful world. And this world, it is showing us signs that it is coming to its end. But as the world is coming to its very own end, some of us, we are having this love for sinful traits. Some of us, we are being swerved sideways, forward and backwards with every sort of wind. May the Lord help us by creating enmity inside our heart.